though. That's just competitive energy.
Competitiveness.
All right, so you and Diddy, you and Puff cool?
No, I don't really rock with him
okay,
like that.
damn. All right, I didn't know what that meant.
Okay.
All right, okay.
Don't let the haters bring you down. Just keep going. Keep chasing your passions and dreams no matter what. Do not let negative people get between you and your goals.
Something strange is happening behind the scenes, and it could shake a billionaire's legacy to its core. For years, people believed the empire was untouchable. Locked down, protected. Any rumors? Buried deep inside legal documents where no one would ever see them again. But now, that silence is starting to crack, because one man refuses to disappear, and his persistence is slowly turning a private dispute into something much louder, something the public can no longer ignore. Over the past few days, social media has suddenly lit up with messages tied to the case. One post in particular sparked massive attention. A public thank you directed at several powerful figures for their support. That single message sent the internet into speculation mode. Insiders say the strategy may be changing. What once looked like a quiet legal battle is now starting to resemble something very different, a public exposure campaign. At the center of the controversy is a man named Ry Sadderweight, who has spent more than a decade making one explosive claim. The hip-hop billionaire Jay-Z is his biological father. For over 15 years, he has pushed the same demand, a DNA test. The courts have repeatedly dismissed the claims. In the latest ruling, a judge not only rejected the case, but also ordered more than $119,000 in legal fees to be paid by the woman supporting the allegation. On paper, it looked like the end of the story, but it wasn't, because even after the legal defeat, the posts didn't stop. The accusations didn't disappear, and the fight quietly continued online. One detail continues to raise eyebrows. Despite years of accusations and legal pressure, the billionaire at the center of it all has never submitted to a DNA test. That unanswered question is the crack people keep coming back to. And history shows that when a private claim survives 15 years of pressure, court battles, and public scrutiny, the next chapter usually doesn't fade away. It gets louder, much louder. And if this new strategy really is about bringing everything into the open, the story may be far from over.
I'm not crazy or none of that. It's like, I just want the truth, and it's so hard to get it from the courts. And it seems like Jay-Z don't want to say anything. So, I don't want to see him go down for something that, you could have just got taken care of. That's it.
And that unanswered DNA test, that's where the quiet story begins to unravel, slipping out of control. Ry Sadderweight didn't just appear out of nowhere. His claim is meticulously documented, buried in court records, interviews, and filings stretching over a decade. The allegation is straightforward, even explosive. His mother, Wanda Sadderweight, had a relationship with Jay-Z in the 1990s, a relationship that, according to her, led to Ry's birth. Court documents reveal that Wanda told Ry the truth when he was just 8 years old. From that moment, what started as a private family matter slowly escalated into a legal fight that refused to stay buried. In 2010, Wanda filed a civil action in New Jersey, seeking recognition and support. The case ultimately collapsed on procedural grounds, but it never truly vanished. Even after Wanda passed away in 2016, the fight continued. Ry, with the support of his legal guardian Lily Coley, carried the battle forward. What makes this story unusual isn't just the claim itself. It's the sheer persistence behind it. Over the next decade, filings resurfaced in different courts. Motions demanding a DNA test appeared again and again, and each time, the same impenetrable wall went up. The billionaire's attorneys insist the allegations are fabricated, dismissing the ongoing legal actions as harassment. Yet the claims keep coming, and without a definitive DNA test, the question hangs in the air, unresolved, keeping the story alive. A tension that refuses to fade, no matter how many times the courts try to close the door.
I was at a show, and she was with a friend, and I guess her and her friend stayed to, after the show, he was doing little signings and little autographs and stuff like that. I guess he wasn't too big, but I guess females, when the show is over, you can sign little autographs and stuff like that, talk to the people who performed. She said she went up there.
For years, the legal battle moved in slow, looping circles, almost invisible to the public eye. But the recent filings brought it back into focus, sharper, louder, and impossible to ignore. Earlier this year, a federal case connected to the paternity claim landed in California. Court documents obtained by reporters revealed a bold demand: a court-ordered DNA test. The filings went further, accusing Jay-Z of manipulating jurisdictions and concealing evidence in prior proceedings. His legal team fired back immediately, calling the lawsuit nothing more than a decades-long harassment campaign. In the end, the judge dismissed the case, and this time with prejudice effectively blocking the claim from being filed again in that court. Then the numbers hit. Over $119,000 in attorney fees awarded to the rapper under California's anti-slap statute. On paper,
I would hope he would think about it and this would be in his mind, but I wouldn't actually know what another person is feeling.
that's when the story starts to bend, away from the courtroom and into something far less predictable. In late summer, a message suddenly appears on social media, instantly sparking attention across entertainment circles. Ry Sadderweight posts a public thank you, directed at Nicki Minaj and Donald Trump, claiming they've offered help. There's no explanation, no documents, no legal context, just the post, and the speculation spreads like wildfire. Observers say the wording feels deliberate, hinting that powerful figures outside the courtroom may be watching the dispute unfold. Whether that attention is real or symbolic quickly becomes secondary. What matters is the ripple effect. The conversation intensifies when Minaj shares a side-by-side image, comparing facial features between Jay-Z and Ry Sadderweight. It's a brief moment, but the reaction is immediate. Ry responds publicly, thanking her and calling her a supportive figure. On the surface, it looks like just another social media exchange. But industry insiders say moments like this are far from trivial. They signal alliances, even informal ones. And once alliances start to appear, the story begins to shift. What started as a legal dispute slowly morphs into something much bigger, a battle for reputation, influence, and public perception.
Sometimes you receive more with not doing well than you receive. I threw an excellent pitch.
Yeah, we wouldn't even bring it up.
Inside the music business, reputation battles rarely happen in isolation. Rivalries have a way of circling back whenever an opening appears. That's why the name Curtis Jackson, better known as 50 Cent, starts drifting into conversations surrounding the claim. The tension between Jackson and Jay-Z is far from new. It goes all the way back to 1999, when Jackson dropped his track How to Rob, calling out numerous rappers as potential targets. Since then, the pattern has remained simple. Jackson throws public jabs, and Jay-Z usually stays silent. Over the years, Jackson's mockery has ranged from playful digs at business decisions to pointed commentary on personal image. Recently, Jackson revived that pattern once again. He shared a meme referencing a lyric from a 2006 collaboration with Pharrell Williams, a line where Jay-Z raps about having a young girl, not yet 21. The lyric had circulated for years without much attention, but Jackson framed it differently, asking his followers what they think it means now. The caption carries his usual tone of mockery, but industry insiders note that the timing is critical. When old lyrics are dragged back into public view at moments like this, it changes the energy around any existing controversy, amplifying speculation and tension.
There's a lot of people, 50, I feel like he don't have to say nothing, but 50's crazy. He's been like this his whole life. When he's on the block, 50's coming.
Meanwhile, the legal history sits there like an unresolved ledger, tracing a path that leads straight to the latest dismissal. After Wanda Satterweight first filed her case in New Jersey, judges dismissed it, citing improper jurisdiction. Years later, Ry and his guardian, Lily Coley, refiled. The dispute entered the public eye around 2015, when filings accused Jay-Z of lying to avoid taking a DNA test. His attorneys denied the claim and immediately moved to shut down the proceedings. The case has bounced between courts for years, sometimes dismissed on procedural grounds, sometimes stalled before reaching any substantive hearings. By 2022, a New Jersey judge went further, ruling that Coley and Sadderweight could no longer file lawsuits in the state without prior approval from the court. That restriction effectively closed another legal avenue. By the time the California case collapsed earlier this year, the pattern was undeniable. Every attempt to compel a genetic test ran into a barrier. On the surface, it looks like the legal system closing ranks around a high-profile defendant. But the truth is far more tantalizing. The absence of a definitive test leaves the central question unanswered, unresolved, and perpetually alive. And that unanswered question? It continues to draw attention, fuel speculation, and keep the story alive.
Older, my mom just continued to say the same thing, and she never changed the name. Like, you know, she always was staying with the same name. I'm like, well, Mom, why? Like, as I got to 16, 17, I'm like, Mom, you've been saying this since I was a kid. So it's like, now my mom never lied to me, so why not?
Meanwhile, a broader context is swirling around the industry, adding new layers of intrigue. In recent months, millions of documents tied to the Jeffrey Epstein investigation surfaced through a federal transparency release. Buried in those files is a tip submitted to the FBI mentioning several public figures, including Jay-Z and producer Harvey Weinstein. The report describes an anonymous woman claiming she once woke in a room with both men after being incapacitated. Officials are clear. The claim comes from a public submission, not a confirmed investigation. Yet the mere appearance of these names is enough to ignite wild online conversation. Representatives for Jay-Z did not immediately respond to inquiries, leaving speculation unchecked. The timing is especially striking because the entertainment world is already watching the downfall of another titan in the same circle. Sean Diddy Combs, once one of hip-hop's most powerful executives, is now serving a federal sentence connected to commercial crimes. His projected release date sits in April 2028. While none of this directly intersects with a paternity claim, industry insiders note one truth. In this world, reputations can shift in an instant, and multiple controversies colliding only accelerates the chaos.
But there are people who have been indicted in the public space, and it hasn't been true. And so I think Jay-Z's tone was exactly, but see, I saw Puffy say the same and then a video came out.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is where the contradiction can no longer be ignored. On one side stands a billionaire musician, a man whose public persona is built on discipline, strategy, and carefully managed privacy. On the other side stands a man who refuses to back down, even after years of legal defeats. One side calls the allegations harassment. The other insists the truth is being buried. The missing genetic test is the clearest fracture between these positions. Legal experts argue that a defendant is under no obligation to submit unless ordered by a court. Yet others say a voluntary test could end the controversy instantly. Choosing not to take that step leaves a shadow, a permanent, unanswered question hovering over the story. And that shadow only grows darker as attention mounts. Social media posts, rival commentary, resurfaced lyrics, and whispers of a potential documentary are now circulating among those close to the dispute. There's no proof of the project, yet the rumor spreads fast enough to ignite curiosity, suspicion, and debate. And that leaves one final, haunting question. If the courts no longer decide this fight, who will?
I mean, why waste my time?
And sometimes you respond to something that brings way more attention to it, too.
That too, and it's just, it goes into another space, and then you just like, oh, y'all not listening to me.
But then you'll have somebody that'll say to you.
What makes this story even more complex is how other voices begin drifting into its orbit. sometimes from angles completely unrelated to the paternity dispute. In recent months, Nicki Minaj launched a series of explosive posts online aimed directly at Jay-Z and the empire he built. Her messages jump from business grievances to accusations of industry power and manipulation. In one post, she claims she is owed between $100 million and $200 million for her involvement in a streaming platform. She accuses Roc Nation of sabotaging careers and controlling narratives behind the scenes. While none of these posts mention Ry Sadderweight directly, the timing is critical. When a figure as prominent as Minaj openly challenges the business structure surrounding a mogul, every unresolved controversy connected to him suddenly gains oxygen. Industry insiders note something rare. For years, Jay-Z's reputation has been built on careful alliances and disciplined messaging. Now, another superstar is publicly describing a system of power and money that feels far less orderly. The result is subtle but undeniable. The paternity claim no longer exists in isolation. It now sits within a much larger argument about influence, loyalty, and who truly controls the narrative in hip-hop.
If you're a halfway intelligent person, when do you start questioning how lucky some just keep getting?
Right.
At the same time, another thread begins pulling the spotlight sideways. The relationship between Jay-Z and Sean Combs once symbolized a certain era of music industry dominance. Two entrepreneurs building massive brands while presenting themselves as cultural leaders. But that image shifted dramatically when Combs became entangled in federal court proceedings tied to commercial activities. The trial pulled in years of testimony about private parties, intimidation, and behind-the-scenes behavior that few outsiders ever saw. Eventually, a jury convicted him on 2 counts, and he began serving time in a federal facility while appealing the outcome. During sentencing, he told the judge he took responsibility for disgusting, shameful, and sick behavior in his past. The admission echoed across the industry. Combs had spent decades cultivating the same polished, controlled image that Jay-Z now embodies. Observers began asking whether the collapse of one figure hinted at hidden pressures on others who shared those elite circles. Speculation only intensified whenever old photographs of the 2 men resurfaced online, smiling together at award shows and industry events. None of it proves anything about the paternity claim, yet it reinforces a new mood. The idea that reputations once considered untouchable might not be as stable as they seem. Curtis Jackson understands that mood better than most. His reputation in hip-hop revolves around public confrontation, and he rarely misses a chance to exploit a rival's discomfort. Over the past year, his social media posts increasingly spotlight Jay-Z's friendships and past associations. One of the most widely circulated examples shows a collage of Jay-Z alongside Combs over the years, accompanied by a caption hinting at loyalty during difficult times. The implication lands without explanation. If one titan is collapsing under scandal, what does that mean for the other? Jackson doesn't answer directly. Instead, he repeats a strategy he's used for decades. Drop fragments into the conversation and let speculation do the work. Industry insiders say this works precisely because it rarely contains explicit accusations. It simply reminds audiences of connections they have forgotten. In the current climate, those reminders begin intersecting with Ry Sadderweight's ongoing claim in unexpected ways. Rivalries, business disputes, resurfaced lyrics, and old photographs suddenly sit beside a man insisting he shares the mogul's bloodline. On paper, none of these threads belong to the same story. Yet once they circulate together, they form a single narrative cloud, growing heavier week by week. A subtle shift begins among journalists and legal observers who have followed the paternity dispute from the beginning. For years, the conversation focused almost entirely on court filings and procedural battles. Now the focus drifts toward strategy. Several entertainment reporters note that Sadderweight repeatedly hints something significant is unfolding behind scenes. His social media posts suggest he is repositioning himself, not abandoning the fight. When he writes that the situation requires playing chess rather than checkers, people interpret the line in multiple ways. Some believe he is preparing a new legal maneuver in a jurisdiction not yet explored. Others think it signals a shift into media exposure rather than courtrooms. Whispers of a potential documentary project circulate privately among producers and journalists covering celebrity investigations. No one confirms the project publicly. Yet television insiders insist the story has all the ingredients producers look for: a powerful billionaire, a long-running family secret, and years of legal conflict that never produced a definitive answer. If such a project emerges, it would instantly change the battlefield. Courts operate on rules of evidence and procedure. Public storytelling operates on attention, emotion, and timing.
You say greed?
Greed.
The money?
Yes. Or the power, one of the two. I mean, it looks more like power.
It's this spell, right?
Right.
That Jay got. That's why I kind of look at Kanye and Dame and all them. They the old me.
Right.
They the YouTube me.
Yeah. Right.
You understand what I'm saying? That this Dame look like the old YouTube me to me.
Meanwhile, the personal dimension of the claim refuses to fade into the background. Friends of Ry Sadderweight describe a man who grew up believing one of music's most famous figures is his father. They say that belief shaped his identity long before any legal filings appeared. His mother's earlier attempts to pursue recognition became part of family memory, not just courtroom arguments. After she passed, supporters say he felt a responsibility to continue what she started. That emotional narrative resonates with audiences online. Some see his persistence as proof of sincerity. Others view it as obsession or opportunism. The divide becomes clear whenever the story resurfaces on social media. One group asks why a man would pursue the claim for so many years without believing it deeply. Another insists that repeated legal dismissals prove the allegations lack substance. The absence of a definitive DNA test fuels both interpretations. People close to the industry describe the situation as a strange paradox. Every attempt to shut the story down seems only to extend its life. Each dismissal removes a legal path, but leaves the central question untouched. What makes this especially volatile now is the intersection of money, legacy, and public identity. Jay-Z is not just a recording artist. His brand represents decades of calculated moves. Music catalogs, corporate partnerships, sports management ventures, and philanthropic projects that reinforce an image of disciplined leadership. That carefully cultivated image carries enormous financial value. Business partners invest in the stability of his reputation as much as they invest in his talent. Any controversy that threatens the narrative of control can ripple through those relationships. Industry insiders quietly note that the cost of reputational damage at this level can reach hundreds of millions of dollars, impacting endorsements, licensing deals, and corporate alliances. At the same time, the story touches something even more sensitive: family. Jay-Z's public persona emphasizes fatherhood and partnership, particularly through his marriage and the 3 children he shares with Beyoncé. The suggestion of an undisclosed son doesn't just spark gossip. It challenges the core narrative that underpins the brand. This tension explains why the dispute draws attention far beyond the courts. It exists at the intersection of private life and corporate identity, where every unanswered question carries a cost. And it brings the investigation back to the same quiet fracture that refuses to close. A man continues insisting that the most powerful mogul in hip-hop is his father. Courts have slammed doors. Rival artists keep stirring the conversation. Other industry controversies drift in like storm clouds. Yet the simplest piece of evidence, a DNA test that could confirm or erase the claim, remains absent from the public record. Some insiders say the silence protects a reputation built over decades. Others insist it reflects nothing more than legal strategy. But the longer this remains unresolved, the more attention it attracts, from anyone who senses a story that refuses to disappear. So now the questions become unavoidable. Why does this claim keep resurfacing after so many setbacks? Why are powerful figures and rival voices suddenly orbiting the story at the same time? And if the courts are no longer the battlefield, where will the next move happen? Let me know what you think. Drop your theories and reactions in the comments. And tell me whose version of this story you believe and why. Until next time.